Hey everyone. So a couple of days have passed and we can finally talk about what's happening in the Kherson area and other places in Ukraine. And before we start, I would like to extend my congratulations to all of you for liking and subscribing this channel so much that now we are over 10,000 subscribers here, and all the glory goes to you because I'm just a guy sitting here yelling at my screen about the situation in Ukraine. Thank you, and let's keep it rolling. Right, guys, so I'm gonna start with a little bit lengthier preamble because it needs to be said. The OPSEC that Ukraine has asked has been very extensive so far, and for the last couple of days it was very hard to get any kind of updated information about what's happening on the ground. I've shared some of the posts and some of the potential information on the community page, and if you're not following me on the community page, just go there on YouTube. There's a great number of people that are following, and we're trying to get updates even when I'm not making a video, because right now it's a busy period for anyone who is working in a corporate job like me. As people are coming back from their summer vacations, everyone has something to do, and that means just an uptick in busyness during these couple of weeks. But the situation has been quite extensively changing on the ground in Kherson, and not all of these changes are coming in fast enough for us to understand the situation. All in all, we can say that generally speaking, the situation developed as Ukraine has attacked. It attacked in about 7 directions. About 3 of those directions were successful, and Ukraine penetrated the front line and were able to crush the first line of defense for against the Russians, which was great. Then obviously the Russians counterattacked, and Ukraine fell back a little bit to try to solidify some of the gains, which is totally fine. And this is approximately what we expected. We should not expect any major deep cuts, and so far there are none that I know of. So let's just go over what we do know, and let's talk about it. So first things first, I'm going to start from this south side up. Alexandrivka right now is contested. Soldatsky, as far as I know, it is over to Ukraine. It is unclear about this area here, so I'm going to say that it's contested because I know that Kiselivka was also contested some time ago, but as far as I'm aware, right now it's only the outskirts are contested. And we had some information about Tomna Balka right here. And as far as I know, it's not been captured by the Ukrainians. But this area here, it is not completely clear. I'm going to say that this situation right here, this is all contested by the Ukraine, except for these parts that I know that have been taken by the Ukrainians. And as far as I'm aware, Ukrainians are very close to this Alexandrivka direction. So this is about what we can say for sure, that all of the settlements and are on the line to be contested are Kiselivka, Tomna Balka, maybe some of these cities, but those are in a longer perspective. Up here, the map shows that there is Lyubomirovka and Ternovi Podi. These 2 villages have been now confirmed to be under Ukrainian control. That means that everything after that will be contested, and as far as I'm aware, it is about like this. So if we just switch back to blue, then we can say that this is about the front line that we should be expecting to be updated in the coming days, and Ukrainians have basically got a small gains and now solidifying the position. The biggest developments were around the area of Sukhi Stavok. This is where the Russians were posting some of the pictures that Ukrainians came in, and then it was some crazy stuff like they're going this way. It's interesting. As far as we are aware, Sukhi Stavok is now belonging to Ukraine, and Bilohirka is also, oh, we're a little bit too close. Let me just fall back a little bit. So as far as we are aware, Sukhi Stavok, and it's somewhere along this line that Ukrainian control is extending. And I'm going to quickly switch to the yellow one and the contested one. We know David Brod is contested. We know Bruskinske is contested, and we know Kostromka is contested. And we know that Russians were trying to push towards Sukhi Stavok to push Ukrainians out. So right now, Ukrainians are fighting to essentially capture these 3 settlements, and if they will, then the beachhead around this area will be extended. So far, we can say that Ukraine for sure captured Bilahirovka and Suhi Stavok as far as I'm aware, and Andriivka as well. But I believe Andriivka was captured maybe a little bit earlier. That's on the second front. And then on the third one here. So this is an interesting situation because here, Ukraine, we know they push towards Arkhangelsk. And Arkhangelsk, as far as we know, for the most part, is controlled by Ukrainians. And I'm going to draw it like this and like this. This is the situation as far as I'm aware. Russians are trying to push towards Arkhangelsk. This area right now is contested. Ukrainians are trying to push towards Vysokopilya and Olkhine to push Russians out. So these two villages are right now contested by the Ukrainians pushing in. And this one is, there is not a lot of action, but technically speaking, there is some push from Ukrainians on the outskirts to get to this village. This is what I know as far as I'm aware. And the last thing that Ukrainians did is they tried to push the southward towards Zolota Balka. So Zolota Balka was contested, but it was not confirmed that anyone has taken it. And so far, I cannot say for sure that Ukrainians are there. That's about the situation in Kherson area. And what we know from this fact is that Ukrainians were indeed attacking on a long front, and they actually got successful in some areas, especially if we are looking at the places like Suhi Stavok. That's the place probably where the major gains are. But we know that Russians are counterattacking. So what should we expect? Well, as I described you in the last video, Russians are having quite a significant force in the area. And most of the analysts, and especially if we're looking at more of a systematic analyst, when it's not the single people that are doing some kind of analysis, but when some kind of collective of people are doing the analysis. So most of those collective of analysts are agreeing that this was indeed more of a probing operations. However, with these being the probing operation and not the actual full-scale assault that we would imagine ourselves to be, what was said about this, that the performance of this assault was, and I quote, unprecedentedly successful for the Ukrainians. It is important to understand that Ukraine is not advancing here in a way that we like to imagine ourselves great assault to be. When an overwhelming majority of forces are just rolling over the defense of the Russians, for example, in this case, or any other enemy, because they will have like 3, 5, 6 to 1 advantage. The Russians did in the east. They had 7 and sometimes 8 to 1 advantage over Ukrainians in some directions, and yet Ukrainians were able to hold and stop and add significant losses to the Russians. Ukrainians are attacking a lot smarter. They are not trying to get all of their men killed, because for them, having a proper attacking force and doing it smartly matters more. And right now, most of the analysts are saying that, yes, Ukraine just wants to start the fight. So the Russians start spending their forces. So Russians start exposing their positions and then essentially destroy them with the precision strikes over a longer period of time, essentially starve the Russians of equipment and ammunition and make them essentially surrender. It's a great tactic, but it's a long one. There is wild misinformation also around this operation in the air. Firstly, there is a lot of emotional posts. Ones are saying that Ukrainians are already winning and taking Kherson. There is less of those. But now there is more of the Vatnik Russian propaganda that are saying that all the Ukrainians have already suffered significant casualties. There's some reporting that Ukrainian, like the best one, was that there was I believe a Twitter post with someone saying that there has been 10,000 Ukrainian troops captured when they were trying to penetrate the Russian-controlled territory deep enough, so they were cut off from the supplies, and now 10,000 Ukrainian troops are trapped. It's a completely unbelievable situation. Some others are saying that over 2,000 Ukrainians are dead. Those numbers do not stand up against any kind of significant count whenever people are counting. Ukraine, obviously, as an attacking side and intensifying combat, suffers casualties. That is normal. Ukraine has suffered casualties as before, but they're doing this smartly. They're not just charging the Russians. We need to understand that Ukrainians, while they have advantage in some directions, they don't have air superiority, which is basically the core doctrine of a lot of Western armies to attack. The terrain here in this area is also very difficult. It's a very flat and open terrain. It's very hard for advanced forces to, they cannot execute any hidden maneuver. It's a tough position to be in as a Ukrainian, as advancing forces, to just charge and take Kherson. But all the analysts are saying, again, I'm going to repeat this again and again, they're saying that they're doing it very smartly, and the gains compared to the situation, compared to force distribution, is as unprecedentedly good. So you should not be discouraged. It is amazing what they did. But Russians are obviously fighting the information warfare. We should expect a lot more disinformation to come out of the Russians. Importantly, on the other directions, if we look at those, we have seen Russians around, it's either around this area or around this area. It was not clear because they said somewhere area around Sloviansk. It said that the Russian forces noticed that there was a significant rotation of Ukrainian forces that happened. And now Ukrainian forces are coming in fresh with NATO equipment, and they're starting to push from there. So we see, I believe it was on the Kharkiv direction around Izium. Russians on the Izium direction around the Kharkiv region, they're saying that Ukrainians have made a rotation and now they're experiencing push around this area. Also on the direction of Kurakhovo, that is on Donetsk, this is somewhere around this area, not known exactly where. But the Russians have been captured on camera waving the white flags and pretty much willing to surrender. And I can only appreciate this kind of activity from the Russians. And I am expecting that we're going to see some white flags around the Kherson area at some point later down this month. I'm really looking forward to that. The joke of the day today, obviously, is the Russian MOD in their essentially map marker that said that 44 HIMARS systems have been destroyed, which is excellent. I think that's a very good mathematical exercise for the Russians. And overall, we can say that Ukrainians are doing quite well on all directions. Russians are expected to get some more troops in. It's still not clear. There has been rumors that it's going to be around this area or this area where the 3rd Army Corps will come in. But we can expect some more developments in the coming days and weeks. As I explained to you, we're probably going to see Ukrainians solidify the position and use the precise strikes to target assets in the Kherson region. And while they're doing that, you can join this channel, this great community of this channel. You can join the community tab, subscribe, and we're going to see you next time. Next video is going to be Saturday, where I'm going to be taking a longer look about what's happening here and on every front. We're going to have a really good time while we wait for Russians to surrender.